Hello everybody and welcome back to PilotIQ on another question on performance graphs. So let's dive straight in. The question is with reference to figure 1-3 flaps up takeoff ground roll. So the first thing you need to do is find the correct graph in your performance and planning manual. So this is figure 1-3 and the title is flaps up takeoff ground roll. So we are sure that we have the correct one in front of us. Next, they give us airfield elevation of 650 foot, a QNH of 1018 hectopascals, outside air temperature of 25 degrees Celsius, weight 2,500 pounds, and tailwind of 5 knots. Then they want to know what the ground roll required is approximately. So the first thing that I'm going to do is I can see that airfield elevation has been given to me as 650 foot, but on the graph I see that I need pressure altitude to work out the ground roll. So airfield elevation and pressure altitude are not the same thing, so we need to convert airfield elevation to pressure altitude. So the best way to do that is just to follow a very simple formula, and you could just remember this formula and you can't go wrong. So pressure altitude equals 1013 minus whatever the QNH is, times 30 foot, because we know 1 hectopascal equates to about 30 foot in altitude, and then you just plus the elevation. So if you follow that exactly, you go 1013 minus 1018 times 30 foot plus 650 foot. So 1013 minus 1018 is negative 5, and very important to remember the sign is negative 5 times 30 foot plus 650, and that's minus 150 foot plus 650 foot, which gives us 500 foot, and that is the pressure altitude. So if you just follow this formula, writing 1013 minus the QNH, you can't go wrong with the sign of the correction factor you need to apply to elevation. So you don't even need to remember if the pressure altitude will then be lower or higher than the elevation if you just follow that formula. But just checking the logic, the QNH is higher than the datum pressure, so therefore the pressure altitude must be lower than the airfield elevation. Right, so I've already gone and then populated all of the lines and everything on the graph, so we can just follow through step by step. So the first thing we need to do is start from the outside air temperature reference line at the bottom. So we need to find 25 degrees Celsius, which I've already done, and then you draw a line straight up from there. And then we need to find where 25 degrees Celsius intersects with 500 feet of pressure altitude, which we've just worked out. So that would be exactly halfway between sea level and 1,000 feet. I took a ruler and then I measured exactly halfway between the two lines, and then I found this point to be exactly halfway between the two. You then go and you draw a line to the right across to the reference line for the weight, and you'll arrive over here. But earlier we saw that they gave us a pressure correction, a aircraft weight of 2,500 pounds. And as you can see down below, this is indeed 2,500 pounds. So we don't need to follow any of the reference lines to a lower weight. We could just go and draw the line straight across to the reference line for the wind, which is over here. Now the next thing we need to do is correct for the tailwind. So what we'll then do is we'll follow the tailwind reference lines, which are going up towards the right, which makes sense since a tailwind would increase the takeoff ground roll that we require. So what we'll need to do is we'll follow the reference line until we get to a 5-knot tailwind figure. So if you go down below, you look over here, every block shows 1 knot of tailwind. And if I just take a ruler and I draw a straight line up all the way, following the 5 knots, you'll see that they intersect exactly where my red dot is over there. I then take that point of intersection and then I just draw a line straight across, and then I'll find the answer over here. So looking at that answer, I get somewhere close to 1,420 feet, 1,425 feet more or less. And as you can see, if you look at the answer options we have, the closest answer option I get is 1,550 foot, which is about 130 foot difference. Now, This might happen sometimes in your exam. What I recommend you do is just trust your gut. You can, if you have enough time, go and double check your method if you didn't make a mistake. But if you spend too much time double checking to get the exact answer that the CAA want, you might waste a lot of time. So that's how you do that. And like I said, just trust your gut. Don't waste too much time rechecking the answers if you don't have enough time. I hope that helped.